everybody. Welcome to 2 Minutes and Beyond, the podcast where we review the Toy Story movies 2 minutes at a time. I'm Macy, and this is Bianca.
Hello.
Hello. In this episode, we're talking about minutes 23 and 24 of Toy Story. I can't believe we're a little over a quarter of the way through the movie.
Yeah.
Because there's 81 minutes.
I'm excited because my favorite part's coming up.
I like this part too. We don't have a guest with us this week, but hopefully again sometime soon. We will.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully we didn't scare away Jared.
We didn't scare anyone else off from coming on the podcast. All right, so this clip begins as the camera pans over to show Woody looking sadly out of the toy box at Annie and Buzz asleep on the bed as the song Strange Things starts to fade out. It cuts to the next morning, and we see a shot from Woody's perspective as he's opening the toy box and looking around the room. Woody looks so sad in that one shot as he's closing the toy box lid.
I know. That always made me so sad when I was a kid because, like we said in last week's video, you could sleep with multiple toys. I don't see why you're just sleeping with one. Me, even now as an adult, I have like 5 giant plushies on my bed that I just kind of push to the side, but still they're on my bed. I'm like, how dare you, Andy?
His face, he just looks so hurt.
He looks very crushed and defeated.
I also like all the toys like sleeping on the shelf.
Yes,
Really
I love
cute.
the way Ham looks, just kind of on his side, his little feet sticking out.
Rex's like tail is sticking out over the edge of the shelf. Slinky is spread out over a couple of books.
And that's literally how dogs sleep. Dogs just kind of melt into wherever they're lying down.
Mm-hmm. My dog sleeps in like some of the most uncomfortable looking spots sometimes. She'll sleep like on the floor like a foot away from her bed. And I'm like, your bed is right there.
Our dogs like to sleep in the bed, but with their head out. So they're kind of like, it looks like their little neck is broken and they're just using the floor as a pillow while the rest of their body's in the bed. And I'm like, what's wrong with you?
At 19 seconds, Woody opens the toy box lid all the way, says, finally, and realizes he's missing his hat. He asks, who's got my hat? And Mr. Shark pops up wearing Woody's hat and saying, look, I'm Woody. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Woody does an overdramatic fake laugh, like, ha, 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 snatches his hat back, and he says, give me that.
This is my all-time favorite scene of Toy Story. You would not imagine how many times that my cousins and I would say this when we were little, to the point where I'm sure that my parents were very frustrated.
Mr. Shark is arguably the best character in the movie.
They should have made a spin-off just called Mr. Shark. We could have had Adventures of Mr. Shark. Could have just squeaked his way into our hearts because he already did.
He does appear in a couple of those like little Toy Story treat things.
Mm-hmm.
Those little, were they like for ABC or something? Those little
I think
Toy
so,
Story
for like,
inserts?
yeah, like, I don't think they were for one Saturday morning, but they were just like little tidbits that they did here and there.
Yeah, I think there's one where Mr. Shark is like telling a scary story or something like that.
I don't think I've seen that one. I've seen a couple of them, but I can't fully remember which ones I've seen, but I don't remember seeing Mr. Shark.
There's a compilation of all of them online. I'll have to send them to you, and I'll put them in the show notes for anyone who
that
wants
sounds
to watch
good.
them
Yes,
too.
and hopefully later on we can review them.
Yeah, we can do a whole episode on Toy Story. What are they called? Toy Story treats?
I think that's what they're called.
We'll have to do that. Speaking of Mr. Shark was voiced with his one line by Jack Angel, a voice actor who also played Rocky in this movie. and Chunk in Toy Story 3. And he's also done tons of like small voices and a long list of animated movies and shows. Like his IMDb page is super long. According to Pixar Wiki, Mr. Shark's line, "Look, I'm Woody, howdy, howdy, howdy," is actually a reference to a cowboy eating vulture in one of Gary Larson's The Far Side daily comic strips from the early 80s. He says, "Hey everyone, look at me. I'm a cowboy. Howdy, howdy, howdy." Which I didn't know that
I didn't
before
know that
today.
either. Oh my gosh, and I love those comics.
That's a fun reference.
That is.
Also on Pixar Wiki, it has a picture of Mr. Shark's like full CGI model, and it's kind of unsettling because the model itself doesn't actually have like his back fin like a normal shark would have.
Oh,
It's just
that's
like
weird.
this kind of long stick in the back that's colored the same way as Mr. Shark, but you don't ever see that part of him, so it doesn't matter.
That's that is very unsettling. That's like I mean, it makes sense because he's not shown
Mhm.
fully, but
Yeah.
still, you would think they would have just made like the basic shark body and they would have just kind of used that as I don't know. That's unsettling.
I will link that in the show notes as well so people can look at that. And I was wondering if Mr. Shark like wasn't trying to annoy Woody, if maybe he was just like trying to cheer him up by messing with him a little bit,
Maybe.
playing a joke on him. I don't know.
Just trying to be all like, "Hey, turn that frown upside down." And he just like bombed it completely.
Do you think the other toys just like steal or like constantly stealing Woody's hat just to mess with him all the time?
Maybe. Another thing that kind of concerns me is how do they sleep in a toy box? Do they all sleep on top of each other? Do they get mad and push each other around?
I don't know, but it doesn't seem very comfortable because, like, when Woody opens the toy box, he, like, kinda he breathes really hard. He's like, "Ugh, finally," and it's like he's relieved to be able to open the toy box.
See, and this goes back to do toys have lungs? We know that Rex has lungs, that was confirmed. But now does Woody have lungs? Apparently so if he's suffocating
Seems
in the
like
toy
it.
box.
I mean, but in Toy Story 3, you see that I mean, it's implied that since Andy has grown up, they've been spending, like, a lot of time in the toy box all together, and that must not be very comfortable.
Maybe they just got used to it. Like maybe in the beginning they were all suffocating and then now that it's been years, they're just used to it.
But how do you sleep in there with a bunch of other toys?
Exactly. Do they
Like,
all
all on top of
rotate?
each
Like,
other?
and does Andy hear them at night, like shuffling, and they're like, "Get out of my way! I'm trying to sleep."
I don't know.
That's unsettling. Like sleeping on top of other people. I would hate to be put in a giant box with a bunch of other people, and we're all trying to sleep in a cramped box. I would hate to be the toy at the very bottom. I feel like there's
Oh, man.
probably a sad little toy, like maybe like a little action figure that just, kind of sifts his way on down and he's just being pushed down by the weight of everybody. He probably hates his life. This poor thing is probably like, I've been here since 1995.
Well, at 31 seconds, Woody jumps out of the toy box. He puts his hat back on his head and watches as Buzz talks to Rex and Slinky. Buzz says, "Say there, lizard and stretchy dog, let me show you something. Seems as though I've been accepted into your culture. Your chief Andy inscribed his name on me." Buzz shows them Andy's name written on the bottom of his foot. Both Rex and Slinky say, "Wow," and Rex says, "With permanent ink, too." Woody gets angry when he sees this and he balls his hands up into fists and makes an angry face. And Buzz goes back to repairing his ship.
I like that they did like when they put Andy's name on Buzz's foot, it looks more like he's already like growing up, so he knows how to spell
Mhm.
better. And when you look at the bottom of Woody's foot, it's all like the N is backwards. It's kind
Yeah.
of like sticky and like it looks more like a child's writing.
Yeah. Like he was in kindergarten.
Yeah,
He's been
exactly.
Andy's favorite since kindergarten.
Yes. So I like that little detail there.
Yeah, that's a nice little touch. I like Buzz calling Rex and Slinky Lizard and Stretchy Dog.
I love those names. I love the dumb, just random names that Buzz thinks of. Especially, I know I'm going past everything, but I love that in Toy Story 2, he calls Ham Slotted Pig. So every time I see a bank, I'm all like, oh, look, a slotted pig.
So later in this clip, he calls tape unidirectional bonding strip.
He's like, where's that bonding strip?
Yeah, that's funny. But also, he's been there a few days. Does he not know their names by now?
You
Has
would
he
think
not
that he
bothered to learn
would.
their names?
And you would think that he would kind of like rank them. So he probably would be calling them like Private Rex and Private Slinky, but he just calls them Lizard and Stretchy Dog.
Yeah, that's weird. Either he knows their names and he just doesn't, he just still calls them whatever he wants,
He's just lying to
or he just
himself.
hasn't learned their names. I like how Slinky's tail is like wagging when they're talking to Buzz.
I know, he's
When
so
Buzz
cute.
says, "Hey, let me show you something," like Slinky's tail is wagging.
He's like a stereotypical dog. Dogs see anything and they're like, oh, gotta wag my tail.
He's like, "Attention."
I know, he's so cute. I love Slinky. He's one of my favorite characters just because he's a happy go lucky dog.
Mhm. So what Rex says with permanent ink too, and I'm like, what other kind of ink is Andy gonna use?
Exactly. You're not going to use just ballpoint pen. I guess because they couldn't say with Sharpie because that's a
Yeah,
brand name. So they're like, oh, permanent ink.
or maybe Andy, like a lot of kids, draws on stuff that he shouldn't.
Oh, yeah. And maybe the mom was like, here is the permanent marker, write your name on it. So,
Don't use it for anything else.
exactly. So she probably is like monitoring him as he does it, as moms do.
Mhm. So the like sound effect when Woody like clenches his fist,
It makes like a rattling sound. And I've always noticed this
it's very cartoony.
since I was a child. Yes, and I'm like, what is, and I'm thinking to myself, like when plastic kind of like when you have plastic together really tight and
Mhm.
it kind of moves, it makes kind of like a horrible sound. That's
Mhm.
what I always thought it was. But
But
it
there's
also
nothing
kind of
really
sounds like
hidden.
he's rattling, and I'm just like, why would he be rattling?
Well, I think the sound design in this movie is in a lot of ways a lot more cartoony just in general than the other three movies.
It is. It's very I think because a lot of the 90s stuff at that time, the late 80s, early 90s, had a lot of sound effects, just like the
Mhm.
random stock sound effects that you can get now. And of course, that would have been easy for them to do, but they're like, no, we got to make our own so that it sounds more genuine, more authentic, and not just stock sounds.
Mhm. Trying to remember if Bug's Life had cartoony sounds like that.
You know, I haven't seen A Bug's Life in years. I need to see that movie again. I really like that movie.
It's a good one. I don't think the sounds are quite as cartoony
I don't think so.
from what
Maybe
I
because they
remember.
were working with toys. They're like
Yeah.
toys, cartoons, childlike sounds. I don't know. And then bugs are like, well, what sounds do bugs make?
Yeah. I don't know. At 47 seconds, Woody lifts up his boot to see Andy's name written there. Bo comes up and tells him not to let it get to him, and he stops and tries to act like nothing is wrong. Bo says, I know Andy's excited about Buzz, but you know, he'll always have a special place for you. And then Mr. Potato Head walks by and unhelpfully says, yeah, like the attic.
Mr.
So
Potato Head.
mean. Like, I feel like we keep going back to this, but Mr. Potato Head is just so mean to Woody throughout this whole movie.
He is. He's like the guy that just always picks on you. Like, he finds one person, he finds his target, and he just like blasts him with as many insults as he can.
Mhm. And it's even worse because if you think about it, if Woody did belong to Andy's dad before Andy, then he probably spent some time in the attic
Yeah, he
before Andy
probably
got
did
him.
with Mr. Potato
And
Head.
I'm sure Potato Head knows this,
Oh my
which
gosh.
makes it extra insensitive. Which is maybe why Bo, like, looks so shocked. Like, she puts her hand over her mouth, like,
I
"What,
know,
did he really just say that?"
like we weren't supposed to bring that back up.
Like, she's like, "Jeez."
Yeah, that does seem like a little bit of like a below the belt kind of blow, so that's probably why it's so shocking.
Mhm.
Also, like, why are you just nonchalantly walking by and saying that? Like, rude.
He's just looking up for opportunities to bring Woody down.
He is. I'm telling you, he's just out to get him. With that being said, I really love Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah, me too. Woody's animation, like, his, I guess, acting is great, like, when Bo shows up and, like, Woody suddenly doesn't know what to do with his hands.
Yeah.
Whoever
It's
did
just
that.
caught off guard. Like, you really don't know what to do. Like, oh, I was, just standing here
And
and
then he, like, puts his hands on his hips and, like, it's trying to look
nonchalant. Yeah.
nonchalant, but it, like, fails.
It fails miserably.
Whoever did that did a great job.
Yes. Thank you, animator number 47, because I really appreciate that scene.
Um, I just thought it's really sweet that Bo was trying to help him.
I know. I think that's really sweet too. Like, a lot of the toys are just like, nah, whatever, Woody, just be quiet. But she's actually trying to help him out.
Mhm. I mean, he's not listening to her, but she's
He
trying.
really isn't, and that's just going to be a running theme with all of the Toy Story movies. Woody sees something, gets upset, or sees that something needs to be done. All the toys are like, we don't believe you, or just shut up. And then just craziness ensues. And then they're like, oh, maybe we should have listened to him.
Yeah. At 1 minute and 3 seconds, Woody yells, "All right, that's it," and storms over to Buzz, who is laying on a skateboard and working on repairing his ship. Buzz holds his hand out to Robot and asks for a unidirectional bonding strip. Robot says, Mr. Lightyear wants more tape, and Snake peels off a piece of tape from the dispenser that Rocky is holding. This is Robot. This is Robot, aka Primordial Wally. This is one line,
I
and he's
know.
voiced by Jeff Pigeon, who
I,
also did
lo-
the Aliens.
I love that they use staff from Pixar just to use for the little whatever characters, quote unquote,
Mhm.
because first of all, it saves them money. But two, you get to hear the voice of the people that actually worked on the movie. So I always thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah. So this, I guess if you don't count that one other thing that we talked about in an earlier episode where it kind of sounded like Robot was saying, um, what was it? Like, oh, come back or something like that in a
Yeah.
weird voice that wasn't the
Hmm.
same as this voice.
Yeah, it's
Unless you
very
count that,
different.
this is his first line and only line.
I'm so proud of him. His little line made him famous.
At 1 minute, 10 seconds, Woody grabs Buzz's foot and pulls him out from under the spaceship. He says, Listen, Light Snack, you stay away from Andy. He's mine, and no one is taking him away from me. Buzz says, what are you talking about? And then yells, where's that bonding strip? And starts to go back under the spaceship. Like, Buzz is holding, when he comes out from under the spaceship, he's holding a jack like it's a tool.
I
I'm
know.
like,
I was
what
like,
is he
what are
doing
you
with
doing? Are
that?
you poking holes or what?
Like, what does he think it is? And why is he using it?
I was gonna say he probably thinks it's like a car jack, and that's probably why they gave it to him. They're like, oh, a car jack is a tool that you use to prop up your car and fix
Yeah, but
it. So
he's
let's
holding it
just
like
put
a
that joke
candle.
in there.
Like, is he just, like, using whatever he can find around the room?
Probably, and that's I think it's cute that they do that because it's like it's a toy that his spaceship is cardboard, but he's using other toys like the way kids would use to pretend something is something else. But at the same time, he actually thinks it's that. So I don't know. Because, of course, if he actually was thinking, he'd be like, well, I need a wrench and all this. And then he'd be frustrated that he can't find the actual tool. So it's kind of like pretending. But I don't know if he's actually correlating that with like pretending or just using it because it's, what's available to him.
Mhm. I just like to imagine that he's under that spaceship just holding the jack like hammer and, like, tapping on the bottom of the cardboard spaceship
It's
like it's a
probably
hammer.
what he's doing. And then I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why is he trying to fix the box? If Andy is still playing with the box, it's going to get more beat up and it's going to get ratty because cardboard does not last very long.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking to myself, like, if he's trying to fix it, doesn't Andy notice that there's like pieces of tape on it and jack holes in it? So is he just too busy playing to notice this? I feel like Andy would be like me and notice things. I notice when something moves and I start to panic. I'm like, that was not there a minute ago. What happened? I remember looking at this and then turning away and then looking at it again and it's not there anymore.
I feel like even I feel like eventually Buzz would have realized he would have had to realize that he would have tried to fly his spaceship and it wouldn't work.
Not just that, the box on the inside has no control panel. It's just cardboard. So is he just standing there like any minute now it's gonna turn on?
Like, I feel like eventually, even if he hadn't gone to Sid's house and, like, seen that commercial, he would have realized he was a toy just because his spaceship doesn't work.
Exactly. And I'm like, what?
He would have, like, tried to rationalize it, like, "Oh, it's beyond all repair," or something.
Yeah. But I really do think like eventually something would have clicked in his head like, okay, maybe these other toys are right. Maybe I'm just being a silly Billy.
Maybe they would have, like, had an intervention for him at some point and been
I think
like,
at one point they may have. Also, the whole thing of him coming, to life after Andy's gone and then going back into toy mode when Andy's
mhm.
there. I think something in that would have clicked. Also, all the playtime that Andy is doing with Buzz, he would have realized, okay, I may or may not be a toy.
Yeah. I don't have anything else to say about that.
I know. It's okay.
Oh, I noticed, Woody calls him Light Snack here, and, like, late earlier on, he calls him Mr. Lightbeer, but then in Toy Story 2, when, Prospector calls him, Buzz Lightweight or whatever,
Yeah.
like, Woody gets mad.
And he defends Buzz. I
He's
know.
like,
I
"His
think
name is
after.
Buzz Lightyear."
And I like that they threw that into Toy Story 2 because he probably realized that, like, okay, I was being mean to him. I need to
Mm-hmm.
respect that his name is actually Buzz Lightyear and he's my friend now. So now that he's my friend, I'm going to defend him.
Yeah, he stands up for his friend.
I know, that's so sweet. That's so cute.
Also, I feel like this whole scene is like, I guess, the precursor or like the build up to the "You Are a Toy" scene, because that scene is like they both think the other person is like absolutely insane, and they end up in a fight.
Yeah.
And in this one, they both like kind of start to realize, oh, this person is insane.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Woody
Both of them are
realizes,
starting
oh,
to think, okay, there's a few screws loose.
yeah, Woody realizes, oh, he's not pretending. He actually thinks he's a real space ranger, and Buzz is just being annoyed by Woody, and they almost get into a fight until Woody opens his helmet.
I feel like, oh gosh, that scene is so funny. I feel like it's trying to, and this is a very bad analogy, but it's like when you finally find a flat earther and you're trying to tell them that the earth is round, but they're so adamant on believing that the earth is flat.
That's a good analogy. At 1 minute and 25 seconds, Woody pulls Buzz back out and says, "And another thing, stop with this spaceman thing. It's getting on my nerves." Buzz sits up and says, "Are you saying you want to lodge a complaint with Star Command?" Woody says, "Oh, so you want to do this the hard way, huh?" And he does that thing that you do with their hands where you put the fist in the hands.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like you want to fight. I don't know. I don't know what that's called. Um, Buzz stands up and says, "Don't even think about it, cowboy." And Woody yells, "Oh yeah, tough guy," and pushes him, accidentally opening Buzz's helmet. Buzz gasps, grabs the inside of his helmet, drops to his knees, and pretty much just acts like he's gonna die. Woody doesn't react at all, and Buzz suddenly realizes that the air isn't toxic. Buzz stands up and tells Woody, "How dare you open a spaceman's helmet on an uncharted planet? My eyeballs could have been sucked." And then that's where the clip ends.
I laughed when the clip ended because he's like yelling, like, my eyes could have been sucked. And then it just stops there. Oh my
in
gosh.
in the audio commentary uh, for this movie, they said that the animator Doug Sweetland did a rough pass of this scene, and he did like all of the overacting with Buzz, but then he ran out of time to do Woody's reaction, so he just had Woody like turn his head, and it ended up being so funny that John Lasseter was like, "Don't animate that shot, just add a little eye blink, and that's it. That's all you need." But then he went back and he over animated it some, and John made him go back and strip down all of his animation, which is why Woody just does that, like that little look.
That is
He
my
moves
favorite though,
his
because
eyes.
his look is just like, are you guys seeing this? Are you not noticing what's happening at my feet right now?
It's so good. But the "my eyeballs could have been sucked from their sockets," I feel like was maybe the line that me and my siblings quoted the most from this movie as kids. Tim Allen's, like, delivery of that whole thing is so funny.
That part is funny. I know that I don't think I've ever like said that to anybody, but I sure have like heard him saying that in my head quite often.
Yeah, I don't know why we would say that to each other. I think it just, like, the alliteration in that line says that they could have been sucked from their sockets is really fun.
It is funny. I think the number one thing that we've quoted, and it's not even a quote, but just the way, like, we even say it now when Woody pops out. When he first sees Buzz and goes, hello. So we say hello to each other.
Yeah. But one of my favorite things when I got my Toy Story collection Buzz figure was that when you when he's in his alive mode, whatever it's called,
Mhm.
and you open his space helmet, he does the thing where he like gasps and his
He's
head moves
gasping and
back and forth.
struggling for air.
He says, "My, how dare you?" He does the whole line. He said, "How dare you open a spaceman's helmet on an uncharted planet?" I would make him do that like over and over again.
Oh my
Back when
gosh.
I first got it.
That is so great. Oh my gosh. Usually what I do, because I've had very horrible encounters. I'm the one person that has had their toys' batteries just, I don't know, short or whatever, but I've had them
Oh,
just start talking.
oh,
So I'm the person that will open the back and turn off the toy just because I'm like, I'm never having that happen again.
that's creepy.
It's very creepy. And as a child, that is like, it's just something I never want to happen again.
Mm-mm. I think I've had to replace the batteries in both my Buzz and my Jessie because uh their voices were like sounded like they were deteriorating.
Oh
But I've
no.
never had a toy. I don't think I've ever had like a toy's battery short or anything. That's so creepy.
I want to say those were like probably faulty batteries because ever
Yeah.
since I changed the batteries, like that never happened again, but it was just really weird. And I've actually had other things do that too. I think it was just that package of batteries that we had when I was
Hmm.
younger.
Are you sure your things weren't just coming to life?
Probably, you know what? It was just
They had decided they were ready to communicate with you.
I know, and you know what? Each and every time I was alone, and I'm like running to the other side of the room screaming, or the other side of the house screaming, and everyone's like, "What's going on?" And I'm like crying.
Well, there's a couple more things to talk about before we go. There's a couple of deleted scenes. The first one is called Woody's Nightmare, and it's would have been right after Strange Things ends. And I mean, it's basically the nightmare scene from Toy Story 2, just slightly different.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that they reused that deleted scene in Toy Story 2 a little bit different. I like that they added glasses to Andy in the deleted scenes. That was an
Mhm.
interesting thing that they changed. Um, Also, the thing that really bothered me was the whole Woody in the trash can and then just all the roaches crawl over him. I was like, "Oh, why did you add that? That's
Yeah,
disgusting."
yeah, it's a lot like Toy Story 2 where Woody gets left in a trash can, but with in this version, instead of, like, a bunch of toy arms, he's covered in roaches,
Yes, that was
and at that point, I
horrible.
was like, "Andy's already like, Andy's not there anymore, so why is he just like, laying there still while these roaches are covering him?"
Exactly, that's
Like, he could
horrible. I mean, that's
move
the
and
way
get away if he
brains
wanted to.
go, but still, I was like, "That's disgusting." When I first saw the first roach, I was like, "Oh, no."
Bugs must be, like, a nightmare for toys.
Bugs, I would say, would be a nightmare for toys because
I mean, they're a nightmare for humans,
exactly. They're just no.
but they could literally eat some kinds of toys.
Especially if it's a fabric toy and there's moths, I'm sure that that's, like, their worst enemy.
Mhm.
But another thing is that when Woody wakes up from the nightmare, he is in the bed with Andy.
Yeah, like, he maybe in that version of the script, he was, uh Andy brought him to bed too.
Not just that, the thing that bothers me is that Woody wakes up and, like, the way most people do in movies, they get up, scream, and they're like flailing their arms. So I'm like, oh my gosh, if I felt something, I'm a light sleeper. If I felt something like that, I would have turned around and like elbowed whatever that was. I'm like, get thee behind me, Satan. Not today. I'm trying to sleep.
Well, that goes with one of my complaints about the second deleted scene, because the second one takes place right after that first one, um, and it's called The Eastern Gate, and it's like Woody tries to manipulate Buzz into standing guard at Molly's crib, which he calls the Eastern Gate. I guess so that Molly will pick him up and start drooling on him or something. But he and Buzz like get into this. They're like yelling at each other at one point, and oh, my favorite part about that scene is like Buzz wakes up and he looks out the window and he says, the sun is gone."
The son's been kidnapped. I love that part. And then Woody just says, "No, this is not about the sun being gone." Like it's still like that's an issue.
I like the way uh, it actually had Tom Hanks performing that part, and he says, and I love Tom Hanks's delivery of it. He says, "Buzz, it's nighttime."
Yes. The way he says it.
But they're yelling, and Andy is right there asleep.
Exactly. That makes me mad too because it's like, first of all, they're moving on the bed and then they're yelling. Why? Andy must be able to sleep through an atomic bomb because these toys are right there yelling at him. Not at him, but they're yelling in not even a 5-foot radius of him. I'm like, they're literally right there.
The other thing about the first scene was that um, there's a part where Andy is playing with Buzz, and he's like, "Wow, Buzz, you glow in the dark." And he's like, "I wonder if Woody glows in the dark." And he holds Woody up next to uh like a light bulb.
I know,
And I'm like,
without the
that
lampshade. I'm like, first of all, what are you doing blinding yourself? Second of all, what are you doing blinding Woody? And you should know by now that he does not glow in the dark.
but it brought back the question for me of, do toys feel pain? Because like Woody is forced to stare at a light bulb.
I think they do feel pain because
But it does, I mean, they do, but it doesn't, but sometimes they don't, it seems like. And it doesn't always make sense when they do and when they don't.
maybe it's more emotional pain than it is like physical pain. I don't know.
But I don't know how his eyesight wouldn't be ruined by
Exactly.
being forced to stare at a light bulb.
I, you know, I don't like that. That's something Sid would do.
That was unsettling. I didn't like that part either.
Oh gosh.
And then in the second deleted scene, Woody is trying to get Buzz to stand guard at Molly's crib, but then Buzz ends up running back to Andy's bed, and Molly, who I guess is woken up, probably from the screaming toys, Molly reaches through the crib and grabs Woody and slobbers all over him. And then it cuts to like the next morning when Mom comes and gets Molly out of her crib, and Woody has like this gross yellow stuff, this yellow liquid on his eye. It like slides down his face.
That's so, and then the blanket stuck to him. I'm like, oh no, that is, I
The
would have thrown
blanket
it in the
almost
wash.
looked
I don't
like it
care.
was alive. Like it was the blanket. I thought it. I thought it was implying that the blanket was alive because it wouldn't let go
Oh
of him.
gosh, I thought it was just like her drool got so like dried on him and the blanket, so the
Oh,
blanket
that
got
could be.
stuck.
Yeah, But either way, I'm glad they took those scenes out. I wouldn't
I'm
have
glad they did
minded
too.
if they found a way to work in the sun is gone part.
That would have been fun. See, I would have loved to have seen that, like, fully animated and completed, but, I mean, I don't know how it would fit in the movie.
I mean, it doesn't fully make sense because Buzz is a spaceman. He knows
Exactly.
what the sky looks
He
like.
should know what basic astronomy is.
Oh, man.
We're gonna have to see that fully animated one day, though, because I really do love that part in particular when he's like, the sun has been kidnapped."
I will put the link to both of those scenes in the show notes. That's all I have to talk about. How about you?
Yeah, pretty much. We talked about my favorite scene, the "Look, I'm Woody, howdy, howdy, howdy." That was my favorite. There's actually, I say that's my favorite scene, but I have like 20 favorite scenes.
Same.
That's just like one of my favorite scenes. But other than that, I'm good.
All right, I guess we can wrap it up then.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Be sure to follow our Facebook and Twitter accounts and send us an email if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, or concerns. I've realized I should have mentioned this before, but we have a website, 2minutesandbeyond.blogspot.com, and if you want to go on there and leave comments, you can do that too.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, and if you enjoy the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.